Welcome to the Africa Diaspora News Channel family. Today we'll be talking about what the Brazil president said recently. He said the quiet part out loud. And he said it loudly that everyone could relate with it and everyone is actually applauding him for saying what no one wanted to say. No one wants to be in Trump's bad book or the P5's bad book. And by P5, we are talking about the 5 members of the UN. That's France, Russia, China, US, and UK. Let's watch the video, family.
Nenhum presidente de nenhum país do mundo, por maior que seja, tem o direito de ficar impondo regras a outros países. Nenhum. E os 5 membros do Conselho de Segurança da ONU devem se reunir para mudar o seu comportamento. Nós não podemos levantar todo dia de manhã e dormir todo dia à noite, sabe, com um Twitter de um presidente da República ameaçando o mundo, fazendo guerra. Ou seja, e todos eles tomam decisão sem consultar a ONU, da qual eles são membros e fazem parte do Conselho. Porque hoje as Nações Unidas não representa aquilo para o qual ela foi criada. Os 5 membros do Conselho de Segurança, os membros permanentes, que quando se criou o Conselho de Segurança era para garantir a paz no mundo após a Segunda Guerra Mundial, viraram os senhores da guerra. O que me incomoda é a volta, sabe, dos imperadores que se acham dono do mundo. Nós não queremos mais czar, nós não queremos mais imperador.
President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva wasn't actually scared. That's because for years, so many people have been putting up with what President Donald Trump is doing. No one wants to call him out for what he's doing. Everyone is quiet about it. We don't know if they are scared, but he spelled it out. Now, the UN is supposed to be an organization that keeps international peace, not fund war or the chaos in the world. But unfortunately, that seems to be the case. He said no country's president is sovereign enough to make rules for other countries or other nations. He also talked about presidents who tweet, threaten the peace of others, threaten to dethrone or to cause chaos in any part of the world. And we actually know who he's referring to, right? We know who does that. Now, this statement he made, family, was during the recent international summit that held in Barcelona, Spain, titled In Defense of Democracy. In defense of democracy. It talked about what Trump did in Venezuela and how that these 5 lots of war, referring to the P5, that's Russia, China, US, UK, that are supposed to be the keepers of peace, are now unfortunately the drivers of war. They propel the war, they back it up. And that wasn't the initial plan of the UN. The UN was established to keep the peace of nations, international peace. We have other bodies, we have this P5 as the 5 nations that hold unique power, the veto power. They can cancel whatsoever is decided on by other members of the United Nations body. So you see this, family. He talked about them not agreeing on a particular decision before it is carried out, before it is executed or implemented. And now we know this, that President Donald Trump comes out, does what he wants to do, tweets about whatsoever, and isn't scared of whoever. But this 80-year-old Brazil president comes out to say the quiet part out loud because no one wants to talk about it. UN as a body is supposed to stand up, address this, but no. And why? Because of course we know that the US is one of its founding members. And we know the power that he holds. See what happened in Venezuela. Now, according to a report, family, when we talk about why President Lula is so bold. Now, according to this report, he has frequently clashed with President Donald Trump over the past decade. His main rival in the last election, far-right former President Jair, who is now serving a 27-year prison sentence for plotting a coup to remain in power, was Trump's close ally and supporter. One thing President Donald Trump is doing is actually breeding and raising enemies from all sides. And actually, this Brazil president, is not a supporter, a fan of President Donald Trump because of what he's doing. And he's saying what gives him the right. The UN doesn't have any power. As it stands, they do not. Over the past years, it has been the US or Russia or China making decisions. Probably they could just make their own body, form their own organization, and leave this UN body to the P5 because they are actually literally the ones ruling. Family, that's how it has been. The US does what it wants to Russia. Russia follows suit. There's China. There's UK. There's everyone just does what they want to for their own self, for their own nation, without considering others. Talking about keeping the peace. This P5 lot of war are not keeping the peace. This is not how it's supposed to be. China looks as though it seems as though they want to keep the peace, but they're only in it for what they would benefit their pockets. It's all about the control of power, world power. Who can control the power? Who is in charge of it? Who can actually take charge of these countries? And yeah, we think President Donald Trump is fighting Iran for God knows what, but we know it's about the control of power, the control of the oil. He said this years ago, right, family? He said this. The young Trump actually said this. Let's watch the video.
The Iranian situation is a case in point. That this country sits back and allows a country such as Iran to hold our hostages, to my way of thinking, is a horror.
You're advocating that we should have gone in there with troops, etc., and brought our boys out.
I absolutely feel that, yes. I don't think there's any question. There's no question in my mind. I think right now would be an oil-rich nation. I think this country is responsible for that war by its own weaknesses. If we were respected, properly respected as a country and as a people and as a nation, I don't think that you would have the war going on right now between Iran and Iraq.
Would you like to be the President of the United States?
I really don't believe I would, Ronna.
Why wouldn't you dedicate yourself to public service?
Because I think it's a very mean life. I would love and I would dedicate my life to this country, but I see it as being a mean life, and I also see it as somebody with strong views. And somebody with the kind of views that are maybe a little bit unpopular, which may be right, but may be unpopular, wouldn't necessarily have a chance of getting elected against somebody with no great brain but a big smile. And that's a sad commentary for the political process.
Then when are we going to get somebody who might be good?
I don't know. I hope it's around the corner, but I don't know. You know, people say, well, what could anybody do as president? The one man could turn this country around. The one proper president could turn this country around. I firmly believe that.
So yeah, this is what the Brazil president said, family. Are you in support of this? Because right before our eyes, this is actually what is happening. The UN holds no power. It's just the US, the P5. They are the ones in control of everything. What you have to say about the story, family, comment your thoughts. And do not forget to share, like, subscribe, and turn on your notification button. My name is Lynient Akotonou.